Welcome to the Champion Blueprint Podcast, where mindset meets mission.
We're diving into what it really takes to lead, win, and live with purpose.
From NFL locker rooms to boardrooms, it's all about discipline, core values, and the habits that build champions.
Whether you're leveling up in business, life, or leadership, this is your playbook.
Champion your mindset.
Champion your purpose.
Let's go.
Welcome back, everybody. Once again, I'm George Rogers here with Gary Brackett. This is Champion Blueprint, the podcast. And I'm feeling good, Gary. I'm feeling good today. How you feeling? You vibing?
I'm vibing, man.
I'm vibing. That's good. So with vibes, you know, we're jumping right into it because we want to give y'all as much content as possible. We try to be positive, but something that we're hearing in some of the companies that we're working with is they're bringing us in and they're struggling.
Yeah.
And we've seen this over the course of the last 3 to 5 months, specifically, especially starting in from the summertime, is adapting. How do businesses adapt? And so today we're going to be talking about striving through an ever-changing economy. It's changing, and we want to give y'all 5 strategies to really keep your business thriving and successful and to be able to adapt. And we've seen a lot of different places in business, organizations, industries, you know, from the healthcare and having to adapt in some of these changes. The administration with the Trump administration, there's always changes going on, whether it's because of businesses that are impacted through the tariffs and the imports and things of that nature. And then there's so many different things going on with the funding and how, especially people who are on Medicaid and Medicare and businesses in the health, how do they adapt to those things? And so we'll kind of speak to those from lessons that we've learned. And it's different, right? Every industry is different. But this is what we've learned, whether it's in the food industry, whether it's in the retail industry, real estate, business. These are some just practical, steps that we've been able to do to really help. But what are some things, before we jump into these 5 things, Gary, what are some things that you can think of in some changes that you had to do and adapt? What are the first steps whenever there's a change needed in your life that you take as an owner operator?
Yeah, I think we talked about this, and if you haven't saw already, check out some of the first episodes. We just you talk about championing your mindset, championing your purpose. And I think it's championing your own individual mindset.
Okay.
Some things is like controllables and some things that are uncontrollable.
Yep.
We can always control ourselves. And we have great energy and great vibes because I feel like we're self-motivated, self-leader. And I think so many people struggle with that self-motivation. And then you add on to the fact that the shift in the economy, some of the other, wins. So I think it's constantly staying positive, constantly building yourself, adding tools to your own individual tool belt so that when these shifts occur, that you can adapt to them.
Yeah. And I always say, every business it's Mike Tyson, everybody, has a plan until you get punched in the mouth, right? Every business has a plan until there's a shift that happens.
No question.
And one of the things that I love the most, some of the most important people in my life, leader-wise, and mentors and coaches in my life that are really impactful. One thing, there's like common effect that they all have. And I see this in growing businesses, companies that are thriving in the midst of shifts. Companies that were still thriving, even you go back to 2008 when the economy, the stocks was crashing. There's always going to be something that's going to impact the economy. And it happens no matter who's in the president's seat. There's always some type of shift and adapting. That word right there, the A word, adapting, is something that every leader that I know, every business owner and operator that I know that thrives and are successful, they're able to adapt. Yeah. And so when I think about, what you say is, having this mindset, it's always in the mind, right? Yep. And for me, part of my mindset when I'm going through a struggle or we got to pivot or make that change as a business, the first thing I do is, am I willing to adapt, right? Yeah. You got to be willing to. Like knowing something and actually doing it and being willing to do it are 2 different things. And so once you get your mindset right, I say you got to be willing to adapt. What's the next turn, right? What's the next shift for you when you get in your mind right? You got your champion in that mind, staying positive, right? Making sure you're healthy mentally and emotionally, physically, so you can prepare for the financial shifts as well and be healthy there. Answering the question, are you willing to be adapt? That takes away anything that you want to hold on to.
Right.
And says, all right, even if it means change, I got to do that.
I think the big thing that I always tell companies and individuals is the biggest thing about change and when you decided that you're willing to adapt, and once you make that decision, you have to focus all your energy on the new and let go of the old. And, I think so often people aren't making that wholesale decisions. They're kind of hedging their bets and they're not all in.
Yep.
And I think they keep on going back, to their old ways of doing things, the old way of thinking that doesn't work anymore when economies are shifting. So I think once you make that change, like you literally have to make that change. You can't constantly tell yourself, well, this used to work, or we used to do things this way, or this is how it used to get done. Like all those things, when they're shifting, you're talking about, AI, you're talking about automation, you're talking about third party, people getting hired now with workforces that are overseas and all these type of things. I don't think it's going to get any better. Right. And I think technology is just going to speed these things up. So I think once you start adapting and learning new things, you're going to commit to learn AI and start using that to power some of your things in your business. You got to start going all in on some of these things.
Yes. It's the mindset before method mentality is. Before we can get into the method of how we're going to do things, let's get that mindset, because economy is going to happen, right? Whether it's rising or falling, it's going to happen. And, having that mindset to say, it may take a share of my market, but it will not take a share of my mindset. Right. I'm going to stay positive. I'm going to stay confident. And our team together, that collaboration we talked about on a previous episode, having that collaboration so that you be able to pivot is important. Let's dive into these 5 ways to be able to navigate for success. Number 1, diversify your revenue streams. Let's talk about this as an importance, because for many people, the mindset, if their mindset is not right, this is why we say the mindset has to be good. If your mindset is not healthy, it's going to be hard for you to pivot and think about other revenue streams.
Correct.
Because there's that fear of failure, right? We're already going through this cycle and we're losing some of the market. If we try to diversify, how does that spread us thin, right? There's challenges with that when we talk about that. But what are some ways and why is it important to look into the aspect of being able to diversify your revenue stream?
I think so often, people have a current client base that they're serving in one way or another. But, every client has different needs that they need to get addressed. So sometimes adding an additional revenue stream is just adding something additional to clients that you're already serving, right? And just providing them more of a service and charging them more of a revenue. So I think, we're not saying like if your business is IT, all of a sudden start doing construction or doing other type of crazy things. Like look at something complementary to what you're already doing. Look at something that, your staff already has the skill set in, and just add something that can be complement to that. Because you said when some of these big regulatory changes occur, they could wipe out, a entire sector of your business, and you just got to be prepared to have some diversification.
I look at, some of these economy changes, and you go all the way back to our days. I had a friend, he showed me a picture of, he's got this man cave set up, right? And one of the things he has a small little section that says Blockbuster, right? And then he has a TV next to it, and this man cave, it's dope. And it's a TV and it's like Netflix stream, right? And so it's showing you the world of 2 different perspectives of what used to be and what is today. Like my 10-year-old has no clue what Blockbuster is. Right. We find the videotapes and he's like, what is this? Where does this go? And I'm like, he calls it the older days, the golden ages.
Exactly.
But being able to adapt and pivot, even if we wanted it to today, you in the restaurant business, I was in the tech space. I had opportunity a while back to go visit a friend of mine, Kyle Wainwright, and his company Refresh Tech. They wholesale and distribute, devices, computers, laptops, but they also are dealing with schools and clients. They're being able to downstream some of the old recycled devices and all those things. And one of the biggest pivots when I was talking to him was like, prior to 15 years ago or 10 years ago, when we're in the tech business, some of the challenges were, we got, retail boxes. How do we get foot traffic? And we were doing some e-com, eBay. He's so diversified now. And I'm thinking if we're in the restaurant business again, and similar to the tech, the platforms that he's on now in comparison, especially with social media right now, right? If we started up Stack Pickles again, and I'm not saying you want to, I know, but we're do that. Some of the pivots and change in this economy is how do we do food classes online, right? TikTok Shop is competing now with Amazon on the sales and percentages, not just because of the value of the product all the time, but it's so many different companies that are now, you can buy a phone on TikTok, right? Through some of these streams. And so how do you adapt and add a different, diversify your revenue and be able to pivot. For them, it's online sales, it's virtual cooking classes, right?
Mm-hmm.
How do you teach, and get a shoe chef out there? How do you create other chefs out there to be able to get some experience there, being able to open up and diversify and just different ways from those things?
Yeah. So one of the things, like, shifting economy, you're talking about. So with the adaptation of third party delivery, right? Initially, we didn't think it was going to be real.
I don't want nobody bringing my food. I don't know if they're gonna touch it.
Not knowing, and then from a restaurant standpoint, they were charging us 30%, and they was at a point where we couldn't increase our prices of our food.
Yeah.
So we're just losing money, right? We're giving people our food, but we're not really making money off it. Now you can adjust your in-store prices versus your online prices. However, being a sports bar, if people are now ordering food, they're not coming in and ordering drinks at the bar.
Yeah.
Right? And everyone says, oh, you make more money in the bar and the restaurants. No, not exactly, but the cost to produce for one bartender at $2.13 an hour, right? To produce 50 drinks, one person can do it. But to feed that many people, you need 3 cooks at $15, $18, $25 an hour. You need servers. So just all those dynamics changes. So now looking at like a piece like catering, where, you walk in your door and you already got an $800, $1,000 hit on your register because you've been out there being proactive. So things are like that is what we're talking about during shifting time.
All right, so that's number one actionable step that I'll challenge everybody. Listen, if you're facing this type of pivot, I always say give yourself, it's a 45 to 60 day window. Mm-hmm. What's something new that we can do within the next 45 to 60 days that's either going to, one, drive foot traffic if you're in the box store, or that's going to get your phone ringing. What's something that you can do to pivot to create that one revenue stream? What's one thing we can add to? What's one thing that we can maybe elevate? Right. And so it may not necessarily be a total new revenue stream. It could be, how do we pivot this one solution, this product, to be able to get to another source? And that number two, we always talk about revisiting and adjusting pricing strategies and what that looks like, right? Because one of the biggest things is that everybody knows economy is something.
Yep.
But a lot of clients, customers, are like, you don't want to jump too high, too quick, too soon. Whenever I look at revisiting and adjusting prices, I always look at it in a perspective of, how do I tell this story of how valuable this is as the reason why prices are changing, versus blaming it on the economy. That's easy. How can we make this product look the same, right? It's no, every iPhone over the last couple of years, iPhone is iPhone. It may have a new chip in it. They may have added a couple of new features, small mechanic things in your text messages and things of that nature, but it's still the iPhone.
Yep.
How do we make this look better? Maybe it's, hey, we're getting rid of the cables, getting rid of the block chargers, and now we're adding another revenue stream. That's all Apple did. They went from giving you free accessories to, now this is a new revenue stream from us that's creating and generating millions of dollars for us again. So how do you adapt? How do you go about adjusting? Because for me, I'm always looking at it, how can I still tell this story that this product is more valuable now?
Yep. So it's funny, you can manipulate pricing as well, right? So iPhones before, when they dropped, they were like $1,200, $1,500 out.
Yeah.
So now they have these promotions. iPhones are free.
Yeah.
Right. But then you pay for it in your service.
Yeah.
Right. And then it's free, but you have to keep it for 2 years. Or if you don't, then there's a penalty when you pay it back.
Yeah.
So I think, in addition to raising prices, I think there's different ways that you could kind of package and bundle pricing.
Value-based pricing.
Exactly. And kind of add things in where people aren't, they're looking at it like a perceived value based on how you package it.
Yeah. And so be able to run, this value audit, if you will, similar to what iPhones and Apple are doing. How do you, and mainly a lot of our big box mobile people, whether it's T-Mobile or Verizon or AT&T, how do we package this same product and get rid of? I mean, it's adapting over the last 5 years. We went from contracts with our mobile services to now it's just a 2-year iPhone free plan. Some of them are saying, hey, you get a new iPhone every 2 years, right? As long as it comes back and no cracks on your phones or some of those things. How do you create a package and repackage your product? And that comes into storytelling. So I always say value audit. Before you move your prices, how do you value audit those things? How do we tell this story? What can we brand? How can we rebrand it?
Right.
Is it packaging? If you have packaging, if it's a service, right, that is online, how do we market this and remarket the brand and logos? What's the statement? What's other things that this does for a company, right? What is our product? What's the outcome, desired outcome? When somebody buys that, what is the desired outcome? And there are some challenges. Certain industries, once again, some industries, it's a little bit different.
Yeah.
And sometimes, especially in the healthcare world, there's challenges there. And I'm not going to speak as if I'm an expert on that, but I will say, how do you do a value audit within your business and your scope of things to be able to understand the value of the product and then the price of the product and be able to tell that story? Because at the end of the day, I think it comes down to then clients that are your clients trust you. And those who are coming back, there's some loyalty there. How do you continue to have that loyalty? And I always try to find a champion, one of my top clients.
Yeah.
And I want to sit down with them and talk to them and get their story. I always love having one of those customers that are really excited. They left their review. They're sending people to you. It's the number one marketing person in your company. It's not the people that you're paying hundreds of thousands of dollars for. It's that customer that is telling their family and their friends how great your services are. Sitting down with that person, that's a value audit for me to be able to get their words on why they're coming back and why they're telling other people. Number 3 is exactly where I'm leading from, is strengthening customer relationships.
Yeah.
Strengthening customer relationships. As I just pointed out, the value of that relationship with the customer is so important, because if you have what you do, that customer is the reason why you do it. And if they're coming back to you in that relationship, why is that? Getting that story out, asking them, hey, would you sit down with me for 30, 45 seconds and tell me your reason why you're using Gary and George for leadership development?
Yep. And I think the big thing, where companies get in trouble sometimes is they focus so much internally on their own problems and, things that they have going on, and not so much about their customer problems and what are they solving for their customer.
Yep.
And I think keeping a customer type of mind, like you said, and building those relationships because you're solving those problems.
Yeah.
And every time you solve a problem, you create a new problem. Yep. And then, you're looking at additional revenue streams that then solve the new problems that were created. So I think that type of mindset, when your product when someone looks at it on Amazon or search online, they can say, oh man, this is made exactly for me. That's when you're doing your job correctly.
In the downturn, customer loyalty is the key. It becomes gold. And so, whether you're creating a top 10 or top 20, top 50 customer list, and how you can reward them, show that gratitude, because, our friend Ryan McCarty, he always, talks about the importance of giving. And we don't give to be seen, but it's always good to be seen doing good, right, and giving. And so we don't do it just to be seen, but I want to give. And if somebody sees that, the impact that it does. And so that's another turnaround when it comes to storytelling, is like, tell that story of you doing good.
Right. And I don't know if we're going to get to, I think, customers, but you see a lot of times now people who creating these loyalty programs
exactly
inside the organizations.
Yep.
Every time I go somewhere now, fast food wise to eat, will you be using your mobile app on this?
Yep.
Well, they want to use your mobile app because they want it to be sticky. They want you to make an easy transition. They want to track what you're ordering. They want to then say, hey, I have seen you haven't been in for a while. How about we give you $1 off your favorite thing so you can come back and visit us?
Yeah, I had the opportunity last year to sit down with Magic Johnson at a conference at Unleash America. And he talked about his early days. Yeah, obviously, he started with the movie theaters, right? And then he went to Starbucks. He wanted, he was like, Black people, inner city people, we like coffee too.
Exactly.
Right? So he got with Starbucks, and it was a struggle there at first because, it wasn't a franchise model, wasn't something they did. And he just said, like, listen, I want to do 20, 25 stores, but give me 5. Let me do 5. Our way, right? And part of that story of Starbucks and how it's evolved even today and pivoted as a business, if you have a Starbucks card, now back in the day, like 8 years ago, it was a gold card. You used to get these cards. I mean, I loved it. I was like, man, I got a gold card.
Yeah.
Like I could sit on Starbucks all day and get free coffee, free teas. I was a gold card member. But now they went to the app. Again, this is another pivot by Starbucks.
Yep.
When you upload from your bank account $20 into the Starbucks account, you can't get their money back.
Wow.
Starbucks scaled their business and have more money because once it's in the app, that's their money. They didn't have to take out loans because we were putting $20, $50, $100 on our Starbucks card in the app. And that was how they scaled their business and started, because they were never in debt. They didn't have to take out bank loans because they had people loans.
Wow.
Right? And so what ways can you generate funds that are sitting there for you? Starbucks, i.e. upload onto your app. McDonald's now you can do that. Like all these people are doing that. But Starbucks was one of the first to start pivoting where you can upload money to your app and it's there, right? And they knew that this was X amount, right? If you got 100 people that's putting up $20 on your app, that's guaranteed money for you.
Yeah, no question.
And then you also have people that they get a gift card, right? Here's $25 gift card. Well, Gary's drink was $23.19. There's no $2 drink.
Yeah.
Gary just throws the card away. So it's easy $2 profit that's never been used.
Yeah.
Right. So there's different methods to be able to use that. Adapting. Now, I'm not saying create something that's a scheme.
Yeah.
But be creative about how you can make business simpler for your clients and your customers. And loyalty programs is one. Number 4, streamline operations for efficiency.
Right.
Once you become engaging, then you become this effective, and that efficiency is the key. And this is where you're able to maximize your time. Now, we're living in a day today, Gary, and I'd love to dive on this topic in future episodes, and we can bring in my partner, Ben, because he's the AI guru, books out Artificial Intelligence in HR, and 3rd edition. But AI can change a lot of things from an efficiency standpoint that, years ago we were grinding in. We were struggling, putting our time in. AI is, able to take some of these daily tasks now that was costing us an hour or two a week and make it a 30, 45-minute process, sometimes even more efficient than that. What's the importance of efficiency? And how does being efficient in an economy where they're struggling maximizes the outcome? And specifically, I'm talking about time, our greatest resource. We can get the money, we can figure out the money part, but from an efficiency standpoint, being able to gain time, whether it's through technology, whether it's through how you adjust your business method.
I think it just becomes simplicity. People want things simple. They want like that Staples easy button, right? They want to hit the
that was easy,
button, right? So like you look at some companies and their websites, they still don't have payment processing on their website.
Yeah.
And then someone has to fill out that order, then call someone in, print the placement, and you're going to lose that customer because they're going to go to somewhere else who does have that.
Yeah.
Or you talk about using AI, then there's like some companies, like especially as a course creator, if you sell a book or online course or some items, you can upsell right there in the cart. Like, all right, you want this? This is a great compliment to that. Like Amazon does it all the time. Like, oh, you want these batteries? Or here goes a battery charger for this. How to make it rechargeable? So adding all those things, and I like to say all the time, it's not an advantage if you don't take advantage of it.
Yeah.
And some of those things that could be, drastic or there could be roadblocks in the shipping economy could also be opportunity.
Yeah.
And then we have to look at those as opportunities. And like you said, adding that additional revenue by potentially adding more things to a cart that someone can purchase when they're already at your store, could be very beneficial.
Doing a cost to impact analysis, right? When I'm hearing you talk, I heard Gary to me say, and I'm interpreting it to the audience, is find those things that are inefficient in your process. Find those hidden inefficiencies and talk about the impact, right? So cost to impact, what is it costing? What are our top 5 expenses? And what are they costing us? What's the impact, right? And if the impact is not where it should be or needs to be, what do we do to grow that impact? Or is this something that we need to lower our cost on and find out where we need to then invest in where the impact's greater? And so how do you balance those things are important to be able to streamline your operations is a value. Number 5, this is the one that everybody loves, right? It's innovation. How do you double down the importance on, not necessarily how, but the importance on needing to double down on the innovation, right? So after you do an evaluation, you find inefficiencies, you find out the cost of impact analysis of your top 5 expenses, and you save some money, you realize you're putting money in other places that shouldn't be there. Now you're doubling down on innovation.
Right.
Whether that's things that you're doing, but you're taking it to the next step, you're adding a few pieces to it. We talked about reframing loyalty programs and ideas of that nature. or it's just totally creating a whole new innovation. How do we scale and go to another level? We're going to add in a revenue stream. The value of doubling down on your innovation and creativity, for me, this is where, previous episode where we talked about collaboration, this is where you're bringing people together. You're saying, all right, how do we inspected what we expected, and we need to double down in this area. And it's important. Let's get our stakeholders together. Let's get our champion team together to be able to execute and put a game plan together to be able to do this and scale it and tell that story. Again, for me, branding is everything when it comes to adapting in this economy. How you're telling that story is of value, especially when you're trying to reach a new market.
Yeah, I think again, talking about technology, talking some of those things that are available to us now. There's programs that you can white label.
Yeah,
I think Chat GPT initially came out as just like this powerful engine, and everyone went to Chat GPT. Now people are making their own custom, websites, their own custom, almost businesses with Chat GPT running in the background.
Yeah.
So using some of the, innovations again that are out there to kind of deter your business or like you said, those shifting economies, and use it to your advantage, and then use that and innovate something that you already been doing and make it better and make it more efficient and make it more attractive to your end user.
Yeah. So listen, I want to encourage people, and Gary, I'm gonna ask you to give one last piece of advice or something that you were able to do in some changes that we had in business. For me, one of the biggest changes that I always go back to when we were going through struggling times, and some of it was, sometimes you're in an industry, maybe it's not the economy that's the struggle. Maybe it's the market. You got, you started with this many competitors and it's 10x over the course of a time, and you're trying to pivot to be able to have that market share that you had. I always go back to Dan Cathy, Chick-fil-A, right? Sometimes it ain't necessarily getting more doors. Sometimes it ain't necessarily scaling and growing, from a footprint standpoint. Sometimes it's just saying, hey, how do we just be better?
Yeah.
How do we be better internally and tell our story? How do we be better with our relationships with our current clients and customers so they can tell our story, right? And how do we be better with the product we have and make sure that we're adjusting that away? For me, that's always a mindset that I have where I'm going to get my mind right? And then I'm ready and willing to adapt, and I'm going to take that step. But it always comes down to me, bigger versus better. And I'm always going to say, I want to get better first before I get bigger, because if I get bigger and I'm not good, then I've just invested a bunch of time and money into something that's still going to be defeated at the end of the day. And for me, there's a couple of books. I think about the traction. I think about the energy buzz. Make sure everybody's in the right seat. I think about the one thing. That book helped scale me to make sure I'm focused on the one thing that I need to, that only I can do at a high level. Those are some things that I do to kind of recap whenever I'm needed to adjust and prepare the business to be able to pivot through change. What are some things that you can advise our audience?
Yeah, I think, again, really taking an audit of what you've been doing, what's been successful, and thinking about how you can add things that are now working. I can remember back in the day as a speaker, one of the revenue generators that we can always have was books. You write a book, right? You write it once, you can sell it all the time. Well, people don't read now as much as they did.
Got to adapt.
Right?
Audible.
So now there's podcasts that we're doing. Now, in addition to having books, right, I have whole courses that I created with workbooks and things like that I can now sell in addition to my speaking engagements with organizations. So I think it's constantly like figuring out how people adjust, how people learn, how they're using your product, and giving them the easiest means possible to get that done.
So again, top 5 ways for your company to pivot. Some things that you can think about. Number 1, diversify your revenue streams. Number 2, revisit and adjust your prices. Make sure you're willing and able to adapt there. And then you want to strengthen your customer relationships. Number 3, how can we better, have a better relationship with our current customers and be able to tell that story to be able to gain new customers? What's the word of mouth look like? How are we getting that? Are you measuring word of mouth within your business? And do you know the impact that the word of mouth is having on your customer, whether that's, NPS surveys and client surveys and things of that nature? Number 4, streamline operations for efficiency. How do we become more efficient? How do you gain more time and be able to understand how to then maximize that time? So then number 5, you're able to double down on innovation Those are the top 5. I want to encourage and challenge everybody that's listening today. Listen, if you're in the midst of a transition, use one of these. Try to find one of these strategies that we mentioned today and see if it can help you. Just one. You can't master all things until you become good at one. And so we want you to be able to master one thing. If there's one of those things that you haven't tried, or maybe you should try, we encourage you to do so today. Listen, all businesses are going through some things. Change is always happening. It's all about the mindset, as Gary said. We kicked this off talking about the championing your mindset. So as always here on Champion Blueprint Podcast, we want you to make sure that you not only champion your mindset in your life, but also in your business, your ships, whatever the ship is that you're on, relationship, your own business ship, friendship. Champion your mindset. The mindset is the beginning of every battle. And if you can champion your mindset, then you'll be able to champion your purpose. We appreciate you as always. Make sure you like, subscribe. If this episode or any episode has been valuable to you, share it with a family or friend. We appreciate y'all joining the Champion Blueprint Network. Until next time.